The Instagram hashtag ChukaWedsAmaka 2025 suddenly stopped trending when Amaka's phone powered off. She sat in the back of a boat taxi, still wearing her bride-to-be bonnet, her fingers trembling as she counted the missed calls. 37 from Chuka, 22 from her wedding planner, 53 from bridesmaids and relatives. It was Thursday morning, just 48 hours before her grand wedding, and the bride had vanished. No note, no warning, just an empty hotel room where she was supposed to be getting a final gown fitting. The imported Austrian lace would stay folded in its box. The event hall with its 500 chairs would remain empty. The 5-tier cake would never be cut because Amaka Nwosu had done what many thought but few dared. She ran away from her own wedding, not because she didn't love Chuka, but because she wasn't ready to love like a woman should. Amaka had it all. At 28, she was a bank executive with a corner office. She wore designer clothes and drove a car her father gifted her after graduation. Her beauty turned heads at every party. Her intelligence commanded respect in boardrooms. And for the past 6 months, her entire existence had narrowed to planning what everyone called the wedding of the year. Bridal showers in Dubai, pre-wedding shoots in Santorini, custom invitations with gold lettering, every detail documented for her 20,000 Instagram followers. But as the wedding drew closer, sleep became her enemy. At night, she would wake up sweating, gasping for air. The dreams were always the same. She was drowning in white tulle, her mouth full of wedding cake, unable to scream. The taxi pulled up to a modest apartment building in Gaki, a middle-class neighborhood in Abuja. Amaka paid the driver and stepped out, her designer handbag the only evidence of her wealthy lifestyle. She stood before a familiar green door and knocked 3 times. The door opened to reveal Mrs. Ebele Nwosu, her mother, dressed in a faded wrapper, her hair wrapped in a scarf. The woman's eyes widened at the sight of her daughter. "Amaka? Mama." Amaka's voice cracked. "I need to talk." Her mother glanced at her watch, then at her daughter's face. Without another word, she stepped aside. "This better not be pregnancy drama," she muttered as she closed the door. Amaka dropped her bag on the worn sofa and shook her head. "No, Mama, it's worse. What could be worse than pregnancy before marriage in this our Nigeria?" Her mother's voice was sharp, but her eyes were careful. Amaka took a deep breath. "I can't marry Chuka, not on Saturday, not now." Silence filled the small living room. Mrs. Ebele looked at her daughter for a long moment, then did something unexpected. She sat down beside Amaka and took her hand. "Why?" she asked simply. "I don't know how to be a wife," Amaka whispered. "I just don't know. But you've been planning this wedding for months." "Exactly, Mama. I planned the wedding, not the marriage." The air conditioner hummed in the background. A clock ticked loudly on the wall. Then Mrs. Ebley said the most surprising thing. "Good. Sit down. You're not the first confused woman. I divorced your father at 33 for the same confusion. Maybe it's time we had a real conversation." For the first time in years, mother and daughter sat together without tension, without pretending. Mrs. Ebele made tea, adding 3 spoons of sugar to Amaka's cup, just as she liked it since childhood. "Your father," she began, stirring her own tea, "was the most handsome man at the university. Every girl wanted him. When he chose me, I felt special, chosen. I didn't ask myself if we wanted the same things, if our spirits matched. I just wanted to be Mrs. Ez. Amaka listened, surprised. Her parents never spoke about their marriage. I rushed into marriage because all my friends were getting married. I was 25, ancient by those days' standards. Mrs. Ebel laughed without humor. I ignored so many warnings because everyone said a man is never perfect. She set down her cup with a small clink. I lost myself trying to be the good wife. Your father wanted his dinner at exactly 6:30. I would leave work early, rush through traffic, cook while still in my work clothes. If dinner was late, the silent treatment would last days. Amaka shifted uncomfortably, remembering her father's rigid habits. I didn't marry your father with my eyes open, Amaka. I married him with society's eyes. That's why when I finally left, I took only you and the nylon bag of clothes. Tears formed in Amaka's eyes. I didn't know. How could you? We never talk about these things in our families. We just smile in photos and pretend all is well. Amaka wiped her eyes. Chuka is kind, Mama. He's not like that. Perhaps. But my question is, do you know yourself? Do you know what you need? What kind of life you want to build? Or are you just following a script that someone else wrote for you? Amaka stared at her tea, the question sinking deep. What now, Mama? What if I don't marry Chuka? Mrs. Eble shrugged. Then you disappoint Instagram, not heaven. For the first time in days, Amaka laughed. By evening, Amaka's phone had died completely. She borrowed her mother's phone to call her best friend, Ngozi, who promised to bring clothes and essentials. She made one more call to Chuka's cousin, telling him only that she was safe and needed time. He'll hate me, she whispered after hanging up. If he hates you for knowing your mind, then he's not the man for you, her mother replied. That night, Amaka slept better than she had in months, curled up in her childhood bed in her mother's spare room. The next morning brought chaos. Word had reached her father in Port Harcourt. Ezi Nyosu, now remarried with 2 sons, called Mrs. Ebeli's phone non-stop until she answered. What nonsense is this? He demanded. Your daughter has embarrassed our family name. Our daughter, Mrs. Ebele corrected, is making a choice. What choice? The bride price is paid. The hall is booked. Over 300 guests are traveling from overseas. She's not ready. Ready? Was she ready to take Chuka's money for this expensive wedding? Was she ready to book first-class tickets to honeymoon in Seychelles? But she's not ready to be a wife? Mrs. Ebele's voice remained calm. If you're so concerned, come to Abuja and talk to her yourself. To everyone's surprise, Mr. Ez arrived that evening. His driver waited outside while he entered the apartment he once shared with his ex-wife, looking distinctly out of place in his agbada and gold watch. For the first time in 15 years, Amaka's parents sat in the same room. Mr. Ez tried anger first. You've humiliated me, he told Amaka. My friends will laugh. My business partners will question my family values. When that didn't work, he tried guilt. Chuka's family spent over 15 million naira on preparations. The deposit alone for the hall was 3 million. Mrs. Ebele finally stepped in. She's not a goat, Eze. She's a woman. Let her choose her own journey. And who will repay this money? You? He shot back. An unexpected calm came over Amaka. I will, she said. I have savings. I'll sell my car if needed. This is my decision and I'll take responsibility for it. Something in her voice, a new firmness, made her father pause. He studied his daughter as if seeing her for the first time. Why, Amaka? He asked. his voice softer now. What happened? Nothing happened, Daddy. That's the problem. I've been so busy trying to be the perfect bride that I forgot to prepare to be a wife. I don't know what marriage with Chuka would actually be like. We never discussed important things, only wedding colors and guest lists. Mr. East looked at his ex-wife, then back at his daughter. His shoulders slumped slightly. Marriage is not a school, Amaka, but you must not go in uneducated. He sighed deeply. If you need time, take it, even if it costs me refunding 20 cows. Saturday came. Guests showed up at the church in colorful gel and agbada, only to find ushers handing out notes that read, "The wedding has been postponed. The bride is still learning how to love well." Some laughed, some hissed, some called her mad. The reception hall remained locked. The caterers repurposed the food for a charity event. The wedding gifts were returned with thank you notes. And Amaka? She stayed in her mother's flat, turned off social media, and began the uncomfortable process of getting to know herself. The first week was the hardest. Chuka sent a single message: "I deserve better than this." Then silence. Her bridesmaids split into two camps, those who supported her decision and those who called her selfish. Her boss gave her 2 weeks of unplanned leave to sort out personal issues. But slowly, something shifted inside Amaka. Without the pressure of planning the perfect wedding, she remembered things she once loved: reading novels, cooking experimental meals, going for long walks. She started therapy. The therapist, a kind woman with gray locks, asked questions no one had ever asked her before. What does love mean to you, Amaka? What kind of partnership do you want? What are your non-negotiables in a relationship? At first, she had no answers. Then, gradually, clarity began to form. 3 months passed. Amaka moved out of her mother's place and into a small apartment of her own. She returned to work, facing the whispers and stares with a new confidence. She and her mother started a YouTube channel called Before You Say Yes, where they interviewed women about their marriage journeys. It gained unexpected popularity, especially among young Nigerian women. Her father, surprisingly, became an ally. He joined one episode, speaking candidly about his own failings in marriage. "I never learned to listen," he admitted. "That was my greatest mistake." 6 months after the wedding that never happened, Chuka called. "Can we meet?" he asked, his voice different somehow, steadier. They chose a neutral location, a quiet cafe in Maitama. Amaka arrived first, her heart racing despite her best effort to stay calm. When Chuka walked in, she noticed changes. He seemed leaner, more thoughtful. He carried a book under his arm. They ordered drinks and sat in awkward silence until Chuka spoke. "I was angry for a long time," he said. "I felt humiliated, betrayed." Amaka nodded. "I understand. But then something strange happened. My cousin, the one you called that day, gave me a book." He pushed the book across the table. "The Art of Emotional Intimacy. At first, I threw it in the trash," he continued. "But later, I fished it out and started reading. It asked questions I'd never considered, about vulnerability, about communication, about building a partnership instead of just a marriage." Amaka stared at him, speechless. "I've been going to therapy," Chuka said. "I realized I never asked what you wanted in our life together. I just assumed we planned a wedding for everyone else, not for us." Tears filled Amaka's eyes. "I'm sorry for how I left. I'm sorry for not creating space where you could tell me your doubts," he replied. They talked for hours, really talked, about fears, about expectations. about the people they were becoming. I'm not asking to pick up where we left off, Chuka said as they prepared to leave. But I'd like to know this new Amaka, if you're willing. She smiled. I'd like that. They started again, slowly, not with photographers and color codes, but with books, conversations, and eventually pre marriage counseling classes at a local church. They read together. They argued and learned to resolve conflicts. They discussed money, children, career goals, and family expectations. Mrs. Ebley watched carefully but said little. Mr. S, to everyone's surprise, insisted they sign a prenuptial agreement. Not because I don't trust Chuka, but because you should always protect yourself. My daughter. A year after the wedding that never was, Amaka and Chuka decided to try again. This time, they planned together, keeping things simple. They married in a garden with just 30 guests, close family, and true friends. No hashtags, no imported lace, no 5-tier cake. Amaka wore a simple white dress. Chuka wore a linen suit. They wrote their own vows, promising not perfection, but presence, not a flawless wedding, but a thoughtful marriage. At a small reception, Mrs. Ebile raised a toast to my daughter, who had the courage to wait until she was ready, and to my new son-in-law, who had the wisdom to wait with her. Mr. S added his own toast to marriages built on truth, not tradition. May you both always speak your minds and listen with your hearts. As evening fell, Amaka and Chuka slipped away from their celebration, walking hand in hand through the garden. Are you ready now? Chuka asked gently. Amaka squeezed his hand. I'm ready to begin, to learn, to grow together. That's all I ask, he said. And in that quiet moment, without cameras or crowds, Amaka understood what her mother meant. She had not married with society's eyes this time, but with her own, wide open, clear, and unafraid. The wedding hadn't made it to that Saturday a year ago, but something better had taken its place. A marriage built not on a single perfect day, but on hundreds of imperfect, honest ones. And that, Amaka knew, was worth all the waiting in the world.
Share your thoughts about this story in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more exciting stories from the heart of Africa.